When 25 years old, William Newton's dismembered body parts were discovered in a West Hollywood dumpster in 1990. The small LGBT community in which he belonged was shook with the news of his murder, especially because his death occurred at a time when the gay community was already overwhelmed by the HIV and AIDS pandemic. This gruesome cold case haunted West Hollywood for more than 32 years. It was the gay community's version of the Black Dahlia murder. Over the years, investigators put forth a lot of effort to crack the case, but they failed for years. However, 3 decades later, a team of amateur sleuths have solved William Newton's case. This case takes us to Los Angeles, a city which is known as the entertainment center of the world. Los Angeles has been a home to a wide variety of attractions and activities, including movie studios, the Sunset Strip, Venice Beach, prominent museums, theme parks, vineyards, breweries, outdoor activities, and a vibrant nightlife. Over the years, people found something of interest in the city as it has many things to offer everyone. William Arnold Newton was born on the 26th of July, 1965, in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. His parents were not married and were living separately. While growing up, William discovered his passion for arts. Oftentimes, he was seen by friends engaging in creative writings in poems, which reflects nature and his soul. According to his friends, William Newton saw himself as a poet and an illustrative artist. He was talented in so many ways. His father, Richard Harriman, once told the media that his son was a very intelligent young man. William Newton spent the major part of his childhood in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where he was born. During his stay there, he went to elementary and junior high school. After he finished junior high, he and his mother, whose name hasn't been stated in any reports, moved to another city called Ladysmith in Wisconsin in the year 1979. Their stay at Ladysmith wasn't too long, because immediately after William Newton's freshman year of high school in 1980, he and his mother moved again to Oklahoma City. The sudden, endless change of environments did not seem to please William, who needed more stability. So he made up his mind and packed up his bags to go live with his father, Richard Harriman. He felt his father would be more than happy to receive him. After all, he was his son. But that was not the case, because on getting to Eau Claire, where his father lived, he was given a shocking reception. His father told him to leave and go back home to his mother. William Newton, who was 16 years old at the time, felt broken and shattered. However, since he never considered going back to live with his mother, William embraced his independence and took a bold step to start a new life on his own. For the next 3 years, William Newton traveled around the United States before finally settling in Los Angeles in 1985. One of the cities he lived in was Oklahoma. During his stay there, he met a man named Terry Elliott with whom he began a romantic relationship. William also discovered his love for beauty and makeup, and this led him to make a decision to pursue a career as a professional beautician. He studied all there was to know about skincare, makeup, and fashion. Upon the completion of his makeup training, he earned his beautician license. In 1984, William Newton moved to Los Angeles and started a new life. In spite of the struggles and challenges that comes with starting a new life in a new place, William never had to wait too long for opportunities. His solid curriculum vitae, which detailed his professionalism as a beautician, quickly got him a job at an entertainment industry that produced music videos. William was employed as a makeup artist and a choreographer. Since he wasn't working full-time, he later took up another job at the gay bathhouse known as Hollywood Spa. During one of his shifts at night, he met a man named David Ray, who had instantly liked his personality. David was said to have been around the vicinity to serve as a judge to a beauty contest for a local gay magazine. William's encounter with David was another stepping stone to the peak of his career. David Ray was an adult film producer whose area of expertise was the gay adult videos. David saw William as a prospect and decided to embrace him, introducing him to the gay movie industry and helping him land roles in several gay erotic movies. Over time, William and David's relationship went beyond just a business relationship. The duo became lovers, and in the year 1987, they both formed a partnership and established their own adults movie firm, which they called London Ray Productions. William then started to work at London Ray as a movie producer, makeup artist, and set designer under the name Bill A. London. He also acted movies on the production under the names Billy London and Billy Porter. Since London, Ray Productions was a new establishment, and there wasn't much money to change movie settings. David and William would film their movies in their apartment. Oftentimes, William would redecorate the apartment to make it unique for every movie scene. As their movie production started doing so well and money started rolling in, William and David started to live their best lives. If they were not making movies, they would frequent the bars and clubs partying and having fun. This lifestyle continued for years until in 1990, when the two broke up and started living separately. At the time, around October 1990, William, who was tired of Los Angeles, already made plans to leave temporarily and move to Las Vegas, where his stepsister, Michelle, was living. His sister told the media that William just needed a mental health break at the time. Aside from the new and exciting opportunities Las Vegas would offer him, he would also have the opportunity to reunite with his mother, who had plans to move to the area at the time. However, after making plans and using his last days at Los Angeles to prepare for his departure, fate had other plans for William, who never got on the flight to Las Vegas. One fateful night, on the 28th of October, 1990, William Newton went to a well-known nightclub in Los Angeles, which was known as Rage Nightclub. He sat for a while at his favorite spot in the club, sipping his drink and observing those dancing and having fun around him. After a few shots, he felt free and decided to join the group of clubbers dancing and having fun. Time flew by as he partied into the night, letting loose and having fun. After a few more shots, he realized it was getting late and decided to go home. He stood up and staggered as he walked to the exit of the nightclub. People who saw him could easily tell that he was intoxicated. Though William made it out of the exit doors, he was never seen alive again after that night. The next day appeared to have been a Monday, and residents of Los Angeles started a new week, going about their daily work activities, oblivious to the gruesome murder that had occurred the previous night. That same morning, on the 29th of October, 1990, in an alley just directly behind Santa Monica Boulevard, a homeless person was searching the dumpsters at the area, looking for something to eat or just finding discarded items. He approached the dumpsters one after the other. Upon lifting the lid of a particular dumpster, he discovered a plastic bag, which seemed quite resilient. He tore the bag open, and what he saw shook him to the core. Staring back at him was a human head and feet. In all his years of searching dumpsters, he had never encountered such traumatizing and horrific sight. He immediately closed the dumpster and alerted passers-by about the horrific discovery. After a short while, the authorities got to the crime scene, and the severed head in the dumpster was quickly identified to be that of Williams. The police searched all the other dumpsters in a 2-mile radius around the discovery site to see if other parts of William Newton's body could be found and retrieved. But all search proved abortive. The autopsy that was done on William revealed that he had been high on an addictive drug known as methamphetamine. Also, the forensics revealed evidence of strangulation and blunt force trauma on the head before he was murdered. Detective Wendy Byrne, who is now retired, was one of those detectives who arrived at the scene and was petrified at how gruesomely William Newton's body was mutilated. She said that she was shocked that something like that could happen, even though William was gay and worked in the gay adult film industry. Wendy Byrne said it did not matter to her. He did not deserve to die in such a horrible manner. The Los Angeles Police Department then began an investigation into William Newton's case, searching for clues and leads that could give answers to what exactly had happened to him and why his body parts ended up in a trash. Wendy Byrne was in charge of the team of investigators. She made sure she and her team worked tirelessly on William Newton's case, giving it their very best. In the days and months following the discovery of William Newton's body parts, investigators received hundreds of tips and leads regarding the case, but they all led to a dead end. Investigators interviewed the neighborhood where the remains of William Newton was found, but nobody seemed to know who killed him and where his remaining body parts were. Having exhausted all tips and leads, the investigators had nothing tangible to work with, and the William Newton's case eventually went cold for a long time. 15 years after the murder, in 2005, the Los Angeles Police Department issued a public statement indicating that they were reopening and reinvestigating the William Newton's cold case. They requested tips and leads from the public. But, in the long run, nothing of use came out of the investigation and the case went cold again. However, by the end of 2006, William Newton's case gained the media attention once again when Mickey Ski, a Los Angeles reporter, claimed that Richard Harriman had reached out to him, saying the Los Angeles Police Department had neglected solving the murder case of his son. When the Los Angeles Police Department heard about this, they issued a public statement saying they have not forgotten about the William Newton's murder case and that they were doing all they could to solve the case. Richard Harriman had left an email address for contact in case the police wanted to share with him any new development to his son's case. Unfortunately, he was not able to see justice for his son's murder because he passed away in his home on the 30th of May 2011 at the age of 65. In the year 2020, two podcasters, gay authors, and best friends, Christopher Rice and Eric Shaw Quinn, took a liking into the William Newton's cold case. They got to know about the case after Christopher read it from an adult entertainment magazine. Ever since then, the case had remained fixed in their minds. In 2012, they both began their podcast show, which was named The Dinner Party Show. In one of the show's episodes in 2020, Christopher Rice decided to mention the William Newton's case and how there hasn't been an arrest since 1990. At the end of the show, Christopher then appealed to the listeners to come forward with tips and leads that could bring justice to the William Newton's case. A couple of months later, Christopher Rice and Eric Shaw Quinn did another episode on the William Newton's case, where they talked about all the facts they have been able to gather about the case since the last time they spoke about it in their previous episode. Christopher also mentioned on the episode that a man named Ron Wheeler had reached out to him, claiming that he had an important information regarding the case. Ron Wheeler told the podcasters that on the night of October 28, 1990, he had also been at the Rage nightclub where William Newton had visited before he ended up being murdered. According to him, he had seen William leaving the club with another man who looked like Jeffrey Dahmer, the famous American gay serial killer. Jeffrey Dahmer had murdered 17 boys and men in the Milwaukee area between 1970s and 1990s before he was eventually arrested in 1991, 9 months after William Newton's horrific murder. He was then sentenced to 16 life sentences. Even though Jeffrey Dahmer's profile fitted that of someone who could have killed William Newton, there was no way to confirm that since he already died in prison in November of 1994 when a fellow inmate attacked and beat him to death. After Christopher Rice had revealed all he and Eric Shaw Quinn had dug up about the William Newton's case and the possible connection to Jeffrey Dahmer, he was hopeful that someone somewhere who knew something about the case would reach out to them soon with evidence and proofs that could eventually arrest William Newton's murderer. Around the same time, Detective John Lamberti started to have an interest in the William Newton's case. He went through all the evidence, materials, and files his predecessors had used in the case, and was surprised at the amount of efforts they had shown to the case. Using his predecessors' work on the case as a guide, John Lamberti then began to look closely at the case from every angle. While investigating the case, he Google searched William Newton's name and came across Christopher Rice and Eric Shaw Quinn's last podcast episode on the William Newton's case, where they speculated about his murderer being Jeffrey Dahmer. Detective John Lamberti listened to the episode and his interest in the case was heightened. He thereafter reached out to Christopher and Eric, scheduling a meeting with them. During the meeting, 3 of them talked extensively about the case, sharing information on all they knew about the case. At the end of the meeting, their mutual goal was to solve the mystery behind the William Newton's murder case. Apparently, the 3 men were not the only ones fascinated about the William Newton's case. About the same time, a documentary filmmaker known as Rachel Mason had also developed an interest in the case and was busy performing an underground investigation. In 2017, Rachel learned about William Newton's murder by coincidence when she was working on a popular Netflix documentary about a gay adult bookstore known as The Circus of Books. She visited a local writer and an activist named Mike Szymanski while she was looking for tangible and solid contents for the documentary. Mike, who had an old compilations of West Hollywood photos, agreed to allow her look through them all. As Rachel and Mike both perused the album of photos and notebooks, a 1990 article of William Newton's murder case mistakenly fell out, and Rachel couldn't help but stare at it. She picked it up and noticed the article talked about William's murder and how there hasn't been any arrest yet. She asked Mike for more clarity on the case, and Mike gladly filled her in on what he knew about the case so far. Rachel Mason instantly developed an interest in the case, but she needed to work on the Circus of Books documentary. When she was done with the documentary, she began looking for other projects to work on. She then remembered the William Newton's case, which she had read from an article at Mike's place. She slowly began to look closely at the case, and over time, she became obsessed with it. The case wouldn't leave her mind, so she decided to start her own underground investigation. While at it, she was determined to find every piece of information that could bring closure to the case. Rachel then appealed to the public on a gay community group page on Facebook to help with any useful information or tips that could solve the William Newton's case. She further asked for tips on the whereabouts of Jeffrey Dahmer in the year 1990, the period William Newton was murdered. After a while, she received a message from a man named Clark Williams who lives in Sherman Oaks. Clark Williams was a stay-at-home married gay dad who, according to him, was bored after his daughter left for college and then decided to connect with people from his youth through a Facebook group on the gay history of Wisconsin, his home state. Clark Williams, who grew up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, just like William Newton, became interested in helping to solve the case and believed he could assist Rachel Mason to fill in the blanks of William Newton's lifestyle before his death, since he had a unique viewpoint on what it was like growing up as gay in Wisconsin at the time. He then reached out to Rachel and told her that Jeffrey Dahmer never committed any murders beyond Milwaukee and Ohio. Rachel Mason appreciated the tip and was excited for the new development in the case. Since she was going to write a documentary on the William Newton's case, she needed someone who knew much or little about his life story. She quickly arranged a meeting with Clark Williams to hear what he has to say. During the meeting, Clark Williams mentioned that when he read about William Newton's case on a Facebook group, he felt connected to the case because he and Newton shared similarities. Aside from the fact that they were both gay, they shared the same birth year. "We were born just a week apart," Clark said. Clark could not help but feel connected to the case, hence why he took matters into his hands to help in whatever way he can. Billy Newton was an actual person, a person from my community, and I wanted to do justice for Billy, so he would not just be remembered for how he died, but for how he lived, Clark told the media. The year 1990 was a time when thousands of American gay men died during the AIDS epidemic, and the murder of William Newton reflected the lives of so many gay men and teenagers at the time. After sharing with Rachel all that he knew about the gay community during the time of William Newton's murder, he promised to spend more time on the case personally. He went to Fresno, where Jeffrey Dahmer's mother lived in 1990, asked friends in Milwaukee some questions that could lead to solving William Newton's case, but got nothing. Clark Williams then got in touch with Detective John Lamberti whenever he finds a lead to the case. John Lamberti, who was grateful for the efforts, then brought in Clark and Rachel into the investigation. Because at the time, the Los Angeles Police Department did not have the resources needed to solve the case. Clark would often sit down during his spare time to research on William Newton's case. Since William Newton had acted in gay adult movies, Clark shifted focus and dived into the gay pornography industry to search for possible clues. Not long, he discovered a man named Rick Pasquet, who around the time of William Newton's murder had claimed to be a private investigator looking into it. But he was actually in the gay porn industry for 20 years, which he never disclosed. Clark began to make his research on the life of Rick Pasquet. He discovered that his real name was Richard Lawrence, and that he had directed a pornographic film titled The Devil and Danny Webster. This was the head start Clark needs in the case. Since Rick Pasquet and William Newton had worked in the same industry in 1990, he decided to reach out to Pasquet in order to find tips on what could have possibly happened to William Newton. Clark was, however, not able to speak with Rick Pasquet because he had since died. However, he researched the cast of the film he directed, looking for those who might still be alive and who could share their stories about the life of William Newton. He then noticed that a man named Billy Houston, who is still alive, was featured in the movie. Clark made an extensive research into the life of Billy Houston and discovered that he was a new promising cast in the gay adult film industry, and his real name was Darrell Lynn Madden. Further research revealed that Darrell Lynn Madden was alive and serving life sentences in jail after killing 2 gay men, including his friend, Bradley Qualls. According to Darrell, he and Bradley Qualls had committed the first murder when they went out one fateful night with a menacing plan to initiate Bradley Qualls into their skinhead cult group, known as the Chaos Squad Skinheads. And to do this, they needed to kidnap and kill a gay man for the initiation. Darrell and Bradley then calmly lurked in the streets of Oklahoma, waiting for the unfortunate gay man to pass by. A man named Stephen Domer eventually got into their death trap. Darrell and Bradley then lured Stephen into a deserted area. They bound him in his own car and took him to a place where he could be killed easily. Stephen cried, begged, and fought for his life to be spared, but he couldn't overpower 2 abled men who finally strangled him to death with his own coat hanger. Having killed him, Darrell and Bradley disposed of his body in a close-by creek. In a shocking turn of event, Darrell then pointed a gun at his accomplice and friend, Bradley, shooting and killing him on the spot for no known reason. Darrell then fled the scene, leaving Bradley's corpse behind. However, he could not hide his crimes for long because he was arrested shortly and made to face the consequences of his crimes. Clark Williams was shocked at the kind of person Darrell Lynn Madden was and decided to do further investigation and research into his life in Oklahoma. He then found out that Darrell had once done an interview for a book titled American Honor Killings. Clark, who wanted to get to the root of William Newton's case, decided to get his hands on the book by ordering for it. Due to the limited supply of the book, Clark had to wait for quite a while before he could finally have it at his doorstep. An excited Clark picked up the book and began flipping through the pages. It got to a point where he was shocked at what he read. In the interview, Darrell Lynn Madden had not only mentioned killing Stephen Domer and Bradley Qualls, he also mentioned killing another gay man in Los Angeles, though he failed to provide details of the crime in the book. But Clark was thrilled at the possibility that Darrell could be referring to William Newton since he was gay and had been killed in Los Angeles. Clark strongly had this belief that the killer of William Newton was about to be discovered finally. In order to ascertain this fact, Clark made a call to Detective John Lombardi and met up with him to discuss everything he had found out. John Lombardi, whose cold case department had put back the William Newton's case on the shelf 2 weeks before Clark's tip, did not waste time to inform his team about the new development in the case. They got to work and started making research into the 1990 lifestyle of Darrell Lynn Madden. It was during the research they discovered that the gay movie industry that Darrell had worked for at the time was located on Santa Monica Boulevard, which appeared to have been the area where William Newton body parts were found. All leads were beginning to add up. However, in order to get answers, on January 4th, 2023, Detective John Lombardi took one of his team members, Detective Tamara Momayaz, along with him to travel down to Oklahoma, where Darrell was serving his life sentence for his crimes. On getting to the prison, they realized that Darrell Lynn Madden was now an Orthodox Jew and a proud transgender woman who had changed her name to Darylyn. She comfortably sat across the two detectives, willing to answer any questions they would throw at her. During the interview, Lombardi and Momayaz asked Darylyn about William Newton's murder, and they were surprised at how quickly she recollected who William Newton was. Darylyn told the detectives that on the night of William Newton's murder in October 1990, she and her skinheads friends had spotted William walking down the street. She explained that William had appeared drunk, and they saw him as an easy target for robbery. Darylyn confessed to approaching William, draping her hands around his shoulders and whispering to him that they were going to rob him, kidnap him, and probably beat the crap out of him. But he would survive the predicament as long as he didn't make a scene or scream for help. Unfortunately, the last statement was a lie, as she ended up strangling him to death, which was confirmed by the coroner at the time before dismembering his body. Detectives Lombardi and Momayaz were bewildered at Darylyn's revelation of the incident. They further asked her why William Newton's body was dismembered and dropped in a dumpster. Darylyn, however, claimed not to have anything to do with it. She said she left William's body with her friends after they had killed him. The detectives asked for the names and identity of the two friends, but Darylyn refused to mention any names, saying, "I might be a murderer, but I am not a snitch." In the days following her confession, Detective John Lombardi, who already had what he needed to finally solve the William Newton's case, presented a solid case against Darylyn to the Los Angeles County District Attorney, George Gascon's office. However, to their dismay, George Gascon said they won't be filing any case against Darylyn, as there was not enough evidence to prosecute her. Despite this sad outcome, Detective John Lombardi and other amateur sleuths who had worked tirelessly on the case were still happy that the William Newton's case has finally been solved with his killer behind bars for life. The case was finally closed, and William Newton's stepsister, Michelle Oliver, said she was grateful for the efforts the detectives and amateur sleuths had put into investigating her brother's death. "Having some kind of closure helps," Michelle said. However, the grieving sister still wanted answers as to why Darylyn and her friends targeted her brother and where the rest of his body parts are.
On November 6, 1994, the serene woods of Wright Township near Coopersville in Ottawa County, Michigan, yielded a grim discovery: human remains uncovered by hunters. An autopsy confirmed that these remains belonged to a woman, yet the precise cause of her demise remained elusive, casting a shadow of suspicion over the circumstances. Authorities urged anyone with pertinent information to step forward while they meticulously examined missing persons reports in search of a connection, but her identity remained a mystery. Consequently, she was referred to as Matilda, later becoming known as Ottawa County Jane Doe, 1994. In a significant turn of events in 2007, the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office took the step of exhuming the remains to obtain DNA samples, successfully creating a profile of the victim. Unfortunately, identification proved challenging as her DNA was absent from the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Combined DNA Index system. Recently, a collaboration between the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office and the DNA Doe Project has emerged, utilizing forensic genealogy to link the victim's DNA with that of living relatives across various databases. This innovative approach led to the identification of the woman as Shelley Ray Kephart, also known as Shelley Ray Christian. At the time of her disappearance in 1993, she was just 29 years old. Shelley Ray Kephart resided in Hennepin County, Minnesota, near Minneapolis, but her last known whereabouts were in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in February 1994. Captain Jake Sparks of the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office revealed that Shelley Ray's mother and children are still alive, expressing hope that the release of her name and photograph will prompt individuals to come forward with information about her past. Until we know whose death we are investigating, it is exceedingly challenging to proceed, Sparks remarked. Perhaps someone will emerge, an old roommate or colleague, who can shed light on her life. Only then can we delve deeper into her connections and the circumstances surrounding her presence in Michigan. Individuals possessing any information pertinent to the ongoing investigation or those acquainted with Shelley Ray Kephart are encouraged to reach out to the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office or Silent Observer at 1-8778-SILENT or to visit mosertips.com. Shelley Ray Kephart was recognized for her distinctive eyewear as depicted in one of her photographs. It remains uncertain if she was adorned with these glasses at the time of her passing.